Okay, I'm going to start.
Do it.
Hello there, listeners to Luke's English podcast, and indeed video viewers, people who are, watching this on video because this is on YouTube as well. Hello to all of you all over the world. Everyone obviously is listening to this at this moment. So welcome to every single citizen of planet Earth for this episode. So what's going on? I'm recording this sort of fairly late. It's dark outside. Oh, exciting conditions. In this episode, I'm talking to Robert Dylan Walker, to give him his full name, also known as Rob from English with Rob, the podcast and YouTube channel. Rob and I already know each other. In fact, we've known each other for a few years, as we used to be colleagues at the British Council. We used to, teach together at the same language school in Paris until Rob moved to Germany. I haven't seen him for a couple of years. But basically, Rob is an English teacher. He's a YouTuber and he's a podcaster. He's also a musician who likes to make music for his podcast. He's a photographer and video maker who likes to use lots of special effects in his videos. And he's into jokes and films and things like that. So he's an ideal guest for me to talk to on this podcast. The plan is to have a bit of a ramble chat, focusing on things like how we both make our podcasts, especially how we include bits of music in our episodes. And later in this episode, we will be playing some of our podcast jingles, those little bits of music that appear in the podcast sometimes. And we'll be breaking them down a bit, explaining how we made them. And we had homework for this episode. The homework was to record jingles for each other's podcasts. So I've recorded something for Rob's podcast and he's recorded something for mine. And the idea was to record jingles. Jingles are normally only a few seconds long, but I think that we both ended up recording like full length songs. Well, I say full length, mine's 2 minutes long. Anyway, so stick around to hear some of our music and generally to get to know Rob a bit and to find out about his podcast and his YouTube channel, which you might want to check out as good resources to help you in your continuing journey to improve your English. So let's say hello to Rob now. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Luke. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
It's a pleasure. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know what to say. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm really happy to be on your podcast.
It's nice to have you on the podcast after quite a while. I've been meaning to invite you on for ages.
Finally, I was like, he's just not going to ask me, is he? It's not going to happen. I'm just.
No, I had been meaning to ask you for a long time, but things take a long time in Lapland. Sometimes I'll just have an idea, be like, oh, that would be a good idea. And then like months pass, glaciers melt. And then I actually do the thing that I was thinking of doing. But it's actually happening now, which is good. So we're both on video. What happened then? Did you drop something?
No, I hit a button and made a noise.
I didn't hear it, so okay. It's fine.
So you were going off my facial reactions.
Yeah, I just saw you go like that, and I thought, oh no, what did he do? But it's all right. I didn't hear anything. It's okay.
Okay.
We're both on video. I'm in my pod room. You're in your basement now. I actually, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. This is my basement here. It's quite messy, but I've got you can't really see it on the video. I've got a green screen set up, and I've got some cheap lights and tripods, and my musical instruments are down here. It's where I escape to be creative and record my podcasts and make my videos, and I love it. Go on.
I was going to say, I'm just jealous because it's a wicked space. You've got loads of space down there. Yeah, you've got a drum kit. Am I right?
There's an electric drum kit, yeah. You know what? For the video people, I could put the lights on and point my camera around it. So sorry, podcast people. There's a drum kit behind me. Can you see it?
We can see it.
And there's the keyboard over there. There's the green screen. This is the light that's lighting me now. My ukuleles.
So it's basically like a little music studio, a little video making studio. It's brilliant.
It's a man cave, is what my wife calls it. But I've got sad news. I don't know. You might consider it good news. In a year, all of this will be gone. because in a year we are moving back to Paris.
Oh, really?
Because my wife's job was in Paris and they sent us here for 6 years, which will be over September 2022. So we'll be back in Paris. So I don't know what I'm going to do because, here in Frankfurt, it's cheaper to have an apartment. But in Paris, even if you're outside the périphérique, outside of the big ring road, which is quite far away, still the price per square meter for a place to rent is super expensive. So we will be downsizing when we move, and I will miss my basement, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, what are you going to do? Well, yeah, it's just, I totally understand. Yeah, Paris is, it's very cramped. Everyone lives in tiny apartments. And for the same amount of rent that you pay now, you will doubtless get somewhere smaller. So, oh my God, are you going to lose your man cave?
Yeah, and there's so much stuff in here. I mean, it's not just man cave stuff. We've got boxes of old clothes and, suitcases. And where does all this stuff go? Normally, I don't know if you have one. When I lived in Paris, we had a cave, which is like a small basement space, but it's just a storage space. It's not really a room. So you can't be in there recording a podcast because you can't plug anything in. Not
at all. Most apartment buildings in Paris do have, as you say, a cave, which is a cellar essentially. It's sort of got an earthen floor. And there's no electricity supply down there, and it gets very cold and it's dark. So you can't really do anything except like keep your old bits of furniture in it. Well, okay, good luck. I mean, maybe you'll have to rent a little space somewhere. I don't know, but you'll work something out.
Yeah, that is actually the dream, to have my podcast and my YouTube channel in a place where it can pay for me to have a space, to be a studio. But it's not as convenient as it being in your house. And right now, where my numbers are, I'm nowhere. I don't even pay for my editing software that I have to pay for monthly.
Yeah, it's hard to monetize this stuff. It really is. It takes a long time, and you've got to be quite sort of almost like ruthless about it in a way. Anyway, I mean, I don't really understand that stuff either, but you start getting into things like, clickbait, and it basically the entire thing has to be about monetizing every single inch of what you do. Yeah, and I don't want to do, I don't like doing that,
You have to follow the SEO and all of this sort of stuff. And I have looked into it, but this is basically a hobby. I'm just to create, if it wasn't for, YouTube and podcasts, I would be in this basement making music and making videos anyway.
Yeah.
It's like it's a, it would be nice to be there, but I'm not putting my all into it right now because I do have a full-time job and I have kids. So, and especially during the pandemic, because we are keeping the kids have been at home when we've been homeschooling for months. So this is partly my, jump into podcasting instead of video making, because it's just so much easier to produce than filming a video and trying to edit it and have it out in a week and write it as well. I mean, I'm loving podcasting. It's great.
All right, that's entirely the thing I love about it too. It's unbelievably better than doing video. Video is a pain in the neck for so many reasons. One, you've got to make sure it looks right. And you've got to put your own stupid face on the screen, and you get all self-conscious about how you look. And, it takes such a long time. You can just spend ages just trying to get the lights in the right position so you don't look totally, stupid. And then there's the size of the files involved and the time it takes to encode all of it and all that stuff. It's kind of tricky. But audio, oh, I love it. I just absolutely love editing audio. It's so much easier, so much more efficient. And also, I actually believe that the end product is sort of better for what we're doing, which is helping people learn English. I think that with audio, people can get more absorbed into just the English. That when people watch video, they, most of their attention ends up going on the visual side of things because, you know, we are naturally visually, you know, we are visual people, humans.
Beings, yeah.
Visual beings, creatures, I don't know. And so we, you know, the visual stuff kind of takes precedence over everything else. But with audio, it's just you and the English, just the voice in your ears. And I think that's really good.
Yeah. Can I go off of that? So for me, I hesitated with doing the podcast for a while because I feel like my voice isn't right. But now I'm okay with it. But with video, I started making videos, just music videos and music videos for my family. And I really got into the editing. So the editing is really, I enjoy it. It's a passion. And I love nothing more than sitting down for hours with Adobe After Effects and Adobe Premiere Pro. And one of the things that really got me into it was seeing on YouTube tutorials for doing special effects and trying all of those out and then trying to incorporate those into videos. But yeah, I am torn because I feel like people look at screens too much these days, and I am just creating more content for people to stare at their screen. So podcasts are also better for that because you're not staring at a screen. You can be productive, you can do the dishes or go for a run while listening to a podcast, whatever.
Yeah, definitely. But your videos are amazing. I mean, the amount of work that you must put into them and all the inventiveness, the special effects and the different tricks, visual tricks and things that are in there. Yeah, they're great. I mean, I have to say that I am surprised that they don't have more views than they do. How do you feel about that? Because I often see some of your videos that go up and I just think this should have 100 times more, 1,000 times more attention than it's getting. What's going on? Why don't you get more views?
I couldn't agree more. Well, there are a few reasons. I think there are a few reasons. One is that I don't post regularly, so I don't get into a nice algorithm. If you post every week, the YouTube algorithm likes that and it pushes you to more people who can discover you. So that's one thing. And also some other YouTube English... I don't like to call myself a YouTuber. Not until it's my job. So a YouTube English teacher, yeah. But some YouTubers, English teaching YouTubers, have, taken me under their wing a little bit and given me some advice. And one thing is to follow trends, see what videos are popular that other teachers have done and make those. But I don't do that. My videos are often based on something I want to teach my real life students. So I think, I'll make a video about that and then show it to them. Or sometimes they're based on a special effect that I want to do. And I think, how can I work this into something about the English language? But yeah, and the other thing actually is something that I learned through you, not directly, but before this podcast, Luke sent me a podcast to listen to. It's Adam Buxton being interviewed, and Adam Buxton is another podcaster who, I really like him from his days before his podcast even. And he's very creative and very visual and puts a lot of work in. And he was talking about, in this interview, he was talking about how he'd created something for the radio and showed it to his producer, who was Carl Pilkington, who is also quite famous, if you've seen Idiot Abroad. That's him. He used to be a radio producer. It's
a funny thing that, it's a weird, funny crossover that Carl Pilkington used to be Adam Buxton's producer. But yes, so he made something for the radio. He played it to Carl.
He played it to Carl, and Carl said, nah, you've worked too hard on this. People don't like it when you put too much effort in.
But you got to do it in a Carl Pilkington voice, though.
Okay, Manchester.
No one's going to like it.
Nah, no one's going to listen to that. You put too much effort in, you've done too much. People don't care. People don't want that. People just want to listen to you mucking about and that. No one wants to listen to the thing you spent 10 hours doing.
The point that Carl was making there is that when someone is making too much effort in the content that they're producing, that people can sort of smell it, that it starts to smell a little bit like, they're trying too hard.
Yeah, and I can actually understand it. It would make someone feel uncomfortable, like, what if I don't enjoy it? They've put so much work into it. And it really rings true if you think about the Ricky Gervais podcast, which Carl Pilkington was on. They didn't spend hours making jingles. They did their jingles live. When it was Monkey News, he'd just go, it's Monkey News!
Monkey
News!
What was the Monkey News jingle? It was like, Monkey News, yeah. That was it.
Yeah, there was some profanity.
Yeah. Yes, very interesting. And so the point we're making here is that when making content, you've got to strike the balance between keeping things quite, what's the word for it? Spontaneous and natural, at the risk of sort of losing a certain level of control, right? And discipline. But on the other, and what am I trying to say? That if you try too hard and put so much effort and control every single moment of the content you're making, that it can, in fact, weirdly stifle some natural charm that comes through. And this is something, I mean, I've been doing this for like 12 years, and, this is something I often deal with, that some episodes, so I get an idea and I'm like, right, I'm going to go for this idea. And as I start preparing it, I realize that I am essentially writing out word for word exactly what I'm going to say. And then I've got a script, and then it's just a robot reading through a script. And it's just like,
really hard to sound natural, isn't it, when you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting better at reading out a script and making it sound natural and stuff. But then I've got episodes where I'm with my friends Amber and Paul, and like the most recent episode with them, they were around for lunch, and I hadn't planned to do an episode with them, and I just like, do you want to do a podcast? And they were like, yeah, all right. And so I got the gear out, and I was like, right, let's go. I had no idea what I was going to do, and those are often the best episodes with them. It's just like, right, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm just going to I just have to hope that we're going to have things to say, and that we'll be able to keep going for about an hour. And then total spontaneity somehow is more engaging to listen to. But you've got to strike the balance, because if you're just being spontaneous, then you run the risk of being another one of those content creators who's just like, yeah, we'll just turn the microphone on, we'll just riff, we'll just ramble. And, that can drift into shit,
Yeah.
Whereas,
especially if you don't, sorry to interrupt, especially if you don't know your guests, because you have massive rapport with Paul and Amber. Obviously you're really good mates. And if I invited someone onto my podcast, which I do, I invite people who I've never met, never even spoken to, just know them through their content on Instagram or on YouTube. And then I just said, okay, let's just chat. It would be too risky. So normally I have like a list of notes and things to do, things to get through.
It's a question of
wrong word.
Just let me just get through this.
Get through it. Things to enjoy, things to chat about, things to talk about,
go
things
through.
go through.
Yeah. It's a bit like comedy, stand up. You've got your material, which is really important, because if you don't come up with material, then you're going to go on stage and you're just going to be useless unless you're absolutely on fire that particular night. So you've got to have your material. But then again, if you stick too rigidly to the material, then you're not in the moment. And that's when comedy is at its best, when you are sort of in the moment and you're kind of, you're aware of maybe what people are thinking in the room, and you're able to voice what people are thinking, and then you've really got everyone, like you've got everyone's attention. So you kind of do the material, but you've got to be ready and willing to move away from it and respond to what's going on in the room at the same time. It's all that stuff. It's all a bit mysterious. Now. So actually, before we carry on, how long have you been in England? Just brief life story. Go.
Okay.
You're from Leicester in England, in the East Midlands.
Leicester is right in the middle of England, and so school there, university in Coventry, which is really not far away from Leicester.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to stay in my band, but I didn't. And don't worry, I'm not going to go into that much detail. So then, I met my wife when we were on a university exchange in the Netherlands, I was studying geography because I knew I wanted to travel around. I didn't actually know what I wanted to do at that point, but I knew I liked travel and exploring, so I did geography. And then after I finished my university, we moved to London together, and my wife got a job with a French company, and they like their employees to move around a lot. There are lots of contracts which are up for grabs. So after 6 years in London, we moved to Cambodia, and we lived in Phnom Penh for 3 years. And that's when I started teaching English, because I was a photographer. After university, I took up photography in London, became a photographer and a photo editor. And then when I was in Cambodia, I got into teaching at a university, and I was teaching photography at a university, which was really good. I really enjoyed it. And that's when I found that I enjoyed the teaching more than I enjoyed the photography. And I took some English classes, taught some English classes there also, because an English teacher left. But I wasn't trained. And I realized that I didn't actually know much about English grammar. I had to learn what was the difference between the present perfect tense and the present simple tense and conditionals and all this sort of stuff. So when my wife's job moved to Paris, that's when I did my CELTA, my English teaching qualification. And I was teaching at going from office to offices, teaching business English to people. And then I started at the British Council, where I met your fine self, Luke, and really enjoyed that there, teaching kids, teens, and adults. Then we moved to Germany, and I've been here for 5 years, doing the same, teaching English to business people and at some small language schools. And in the meantime, doing videos and podcasts in my spare time. There you go. History.
Brilliant. One of the things that struck me about meeting you was the music, because I remember seeing you go into one of your lessons. You were teaching kids at the British Council. I remember you going into one of your lessons with a ukulele, and I was like, "What are you doing with a ukulele going into?" That's really cool. And I think you played me one or two of your songs, because maybe your early videos were for kids, and
yeah.
You used the ukulele and stuff, and basically you were kind of going into class. And you had the ukulele, you were just making up songs in the class with the kids, and they loved it. And I had to cover for you one day, and you said, "Hey, you should bring your ukulele." And I was like, "What? I can't just make up a song." And I did it, and it was all right. But I've always been impressed by your ability to kind of come up with songs. For me, it's more difficult. I'm musical. I like to play music, but I'm not great at coming up with songs or songwriting. And the other thing was you had, where is it? You had one of these, a Korg Kaossilator. So audio
right
listeners,
here.
I've got it in my hand right now. It's a little grey thing. It's described as a dynamic phrase synthesizer. You've got the Kaossilator K2. I've got is it the K2?
It's the second incarnation. Yeah, it's a Korg Kaossilator 2. But I think you got this is like the one for playing stuff live. You got the computer. I don't know how you would describe it. What's the?
I don't know either. But
it's more for looping and stuff, isn't it?
I got the Kaossilator 2S, and essentially what you can do with this, you can create these loops, and then you can transfer them to Ableton on your computer, and then you can kind of mix them, and you can sequence them and stuff in there. And it's like a little pad that's, I don't know, it's only a few centimeters wide. It's just like this little pad, and it's got all these different loops and sounds in it, and you can essentially make loops on it, and you can layer up all these loops together, and then when you put them in the computer, you can kind of like separate those loops and kind of, you know, as I said, sequence them. And you showed me how to use it and stuff, and you inspired me to get one of these things, and I used it, and I made a bunch of tunes on it. It was great. But anyway, yes, you're musical. And you like to do stuff with music, and that kind of brings us to you're plugging in your Kaossilator right now, aren't you?
I was going to Shall I do that? Shall I?
Yeah, come on. So what I was going to say is that this brings us to making music and making jingles for podcasts. And so let's get into this, right? And what we're going to do is talk about your process, and maybe mine as well a little bit, for making bits of music and making little jingles that we play in our episodes. So you probably use a variety of different things to make your bits of music. Most of the time for me, I'm using GarageBand, Apple royalty-free jingles, and I'm just putting my voice over the top of them. So like the Amber and Paul jingle, it's a
love that
something
jingle.
that it's an Apple royalty
on the podcast.
I can never remember what it's actually called, the original one, but it came with my Apple Mac computer that I bought in 2007, and it had all these loops in it. I don't think it has that stuff in it anymore, the ones that you buy these days. And so a lot of the stuff I've just used with that. But what about you? So I think you just make them from scratch.
Yeah, I made them from scratch. This is my sort of creative outlet. And I wasn't keen on doing a podcast, but then when I realized, wait, I can make little jingles for it. This is one of the things that really made me want to do it eventually. But another thing that made me want to do it, I know I'm going off on a tangent, was that being an English teacher, traveling around and teaching students in offices, not like a place like a central school or like the British Council where we met each other. I don't really have any colleagues. So it's really nice to do a podcast and have a chat with a teacher. And normally before and after the podcast, we'll have chats as well and establish more of a rapport. So doing the podcast is great for that as well. So back to the jingles. Yeah, like you said, I plugged in my Kaossilator, and this is one of the ways I make a jingle if I've not really got that much time. So sorry if this comes in really loud. Let's see. Okay.
Are you going to what are you going to do? Are you going to play us a pre-made jingle, or are you going to make one with us now?
Well, I hadn't planned to. I was going to just make one right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Can you hear that drum?
So as we record this, my audio is a little bit quiet because you're connected to me by Bluetooth. But no, it's okay. I can hear it. So the final recording will sound better. But yeah, I can hear that. Yeah.
Okay. So I need something to make a jingle about. What should it be? A jingle for?
The jingle is going to be about your man cave, about your basement,
okay.
And how great it is, and how you don't want to lose it.
I'm going to start with some drums. Let me just make sure this is on 8 beats. Okay, so and then I'm going to loop this. Okay, so that's looped. And now
is that one of the drum and bass loops?
It's drum and bass, yeah, you recognize it.
I thought so.
And now I'm going to find a bass voice and loop that. Let's see if this one sounds... don't like that one.
That's quite fat. I quite like that.
Okay. Oh, I should do it on the... So I'm just touching this sensitive pad. Oh, sorry, the plug came out. Okay, so I'm going to loop something here.
Okay.
Okay, so that's looped.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to add a lead voice. So we'll go with something like... Okay. And then I'll sing something like... I'm in the man cave. I love my man cave. It's the man cave.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
brilliant.
If I'm stuck for time, that's what I'll do. Otherwise, I will play some piano or, keyboard, or some guitar or some bass. Or if I've really got a lot of time and if I've not played the drum kit in a while, I'll play the drum kit. And basically, you gave me the phrase, it's about the man cave. Going in, knowing what the jingle is going to be about, helps to just play some random chords and come up with something. That's as deep as I can explain the creative process.
See, that's what I mean about what struck me when I met you, because you had your Kaossilator in the teacher's room and you were just like, hey, look at this. And in just a couple of minutes, you created this little groove, this little loop. It's really, it's really good. The speed with which you can do that. Takes me
let me just dispel some of what you were talking about earlier when I was making music with my ukulele with the kids. What I was doing was something called collective songwriting. So I wasn't making a song to play to the kids. It's a process whereby the kids, I should say students really, the young learners choose a key. They choose the beat on the Kaossilator, say which one do you like. Mm-hmm. And then there's usually a theme, and they each come up with their own words for the song. Either I'll go, you choose a name of an item of clothing, if we're doing items of clothing, and a color, or something like that, depending on the age of the students. And they are giving me the lyrics, mm-hmm. and I'm singing it, and they're singing it with me. And sometimes we'll have like call and response or things like that. So yeah, and they really enjoy it.
Yeah,
and it gets them. The only thing is it gets them a little bit too energetic. So you have to save it for the end of the lesson. Otherwise you won't get them sitting down again.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay. So, right. Now you've got a few sort of jingles that you often play on your podcast, and the jingles announce things like games, or they announce moments when certain bits of language have come up. Can you play us some of those little jingles? And, okay, either we can explore how the jingle was made, or we can just kind of have fun and play one of the games, because that's one of the things we were planning to do. Your jingles often introduce games. Let's play some of those games and then quickly play. Let's play some of those jingles and then quickly play the games too. What do you reckon?
Yes. Well, my laptop has turned itself off. Okay, we're back. Okay, so...
Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry, I've got to move for a second.
I was going to say, we also have to play each other the bits of music that we wrote for each other as well. We should probably get to that pretty soon. We shouldn't leave it too long. But...
Okay, well, let's. What do you want to do? Like 2 jingles with games, and then do that. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
So,
jingles,
so I'll give
two jingles with games. We'll play the games, then we'll play each other our songs, and then I want to play you a couple of my jingles too, because I never really get to talk about them. Okay, so let's start with yours. Couple of jingles and games.
Okay, so another thing about my jingles is that I'm really happy that you want me to play them, because normally they are one-off jingles, and this one actually has someone's name in it. So I was doing a podcast with Iz from English Idioms with Iz, and this jingle is called Iz, Do You Know What the Idiom Is? Can't play. Try something else. We can't get to your external storage right now. Okay. How do you feel about editing?
Fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I normally write down the time signatures, the time, so I know where I'm going to edit.
I'll just go through the
You probably listen to the whole thing, right? Okay.
Or I'll just leave this in.
Sure.
We'll see.
Behind the scenes. Okay. So, let me turn this up a little bit. Okay. I need to leave a space in case you are going to edit it out. Okay. Okay, so this one is Do You Know What the Idiom Is? And then we're going to see if you can work out some idioms.
Okay.
Do you know what the idiom is? 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 Do you know what the idiom is?
So
it's kind of like a glam rock type thing, isn't it?
That's my most hard rocking song, yeah. And So with that one, I knew it was going to be called "Is Do You Know What the Idiom Is?" because that's such a catchy lyric.
Yeah, and the teacher's name is Is?
It's Isabel.
Right.
So she shortens it to Is. She's really funny, actually. Her videos, every video on Instagram explains an idiom, and it's really, really funny.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, and when I sung the high bit on that's when I was most happy with it. Okay, here we go. So these are all animal idioms to make it easy for you. So you have to tell me what the idiom is. I'm going to tell you like what it means, and you have to think, well, what idiom would say that? Okay. So you can't stop moving. You can't.
Ants in your pants.
Brilliant. Well done. Oh, I
can
do my little,
If you got. Now, those things, right? Whenever you do a quiz, you've got like a right answer jingle and a wrong answer jingle. Now, what is that saying? Is that's correct or that's good?
See, I was worried that people can't hear it very well. That's correct.
That's correct.
And that's not correct.
That's not correct.
Yeah, that's not correct.
My daughter saying them.
But that's correct. For me, it sounds like an American accent saying, that's good.
That's correct.
That's good.
Yeah. You know what? Normally, because I'm conscious of that, and normally after the first time I play it on a podcast, I'll say, yes, that's correct. Cool.
Is that one of your daughters?
Yeah, that's my oldest daughter. She comes down to the basement and she loves shouting in the microphone. So I thought, let's just have you do some little jingles. Not jingles, really. I don't know what you would call them.
Stabs. I think they're called stabs.
Stabs. There you go. It's been in the business.
Even
12 years.
shorter than a jingle. So if to have ants in your pants, yes, it's when you can't sit still, you can't stop moving, you got ants in your pants, and you got to dance. Okay, good. Next.
Okay, next game. This one I thought you in particular would like because it's about bands. So it's called the Band Name Synonyms game. So basically, I have taken some band names and got a thesaurus and changed every word in the band name to a different word with the same meaning, a synonym, except the is the same. So that should help you. Okay, so where is this jingle now?
So, for example, if it's the Beatles, it would be like the small insects with shells on their backs.
Yeah, I probably would just say the insects. But I steered away from the Beatles because I was like, but it's spelled B-E-A-T. So, and I thought it would be too easy for you as well.
Okay, I get the idea.
Okay, here's the jingle.
The words have changed, but the meaning's the same. The meaning's the same, but the words have changed. Do you have a thesaurus? Would you like to play the band name synonyms game?
Very nice.
Thanks. So there's piano on there. When there's a piano one, you know that I'm making it after my wife and kids are in bed. Because if I use the ukulele or the guitar, which I like to put through an amp, there's too much volume. But the keyboard I can just plug in with the headphone socket and it's silent, and then I'll maybe sing it the next day if it's too late.
The words have changed, but the meaning's the same. Yes. So we're dealing with synonyms here. Okay, so you're going to give me some synonyms, and I've got to work out what the band name is based on these synonyms. Okay,
right.
I'm up for it.
Okay, we'll do a few. I'm going to give you the easiest one first. The rotating rocks.
The rotating rocks. Yeah, it's the Rolling Stones.
Oh.
All right.
Yep.
That's correct.
Okay, so what about this one? One word. Smudge.
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 Smudge. Yeah. Okay, so smudge is like when, for example, if you write something with a pen and the ink is not dry and you put your thumb on it, you'd smudge it. Oh my God. Smudge. Smear.
The thing with thesaurus is it's not exactly really a synonym, is it?
Well, it's almost the same. Oh God, I don't know.
So
what this could.
Let me help you. If you write a word, or well, say it's a picture, yeah,
Yeah.
and you smudge it, then that picture, you will look at it and you say,
Blur,
oh, it's really
blur.
blur.
Of course. So blur because blur. If something is not clear, if an image is not clear, you could say it's blurred, and blur is a noun as well. A blur, and verb also, to blur an image. Okay, yeah.
If I take my glasses off, everything is blurred or blurry.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I've got two for this one. The first one it's a little bit dark. Okay. The cerebrovascular accident.
The cerebrovascular accident. The heart attack. Heart attack. No. Cardiac arrest.
Oh, I should say that it should be plural. The cerebrovascular accidents.
The heart attacks.
Close. I don't know if there's a band called the Heart Attacks. There might
Strokes.
be
The Strokes.
The Strokes.
Right. Yeah, it is a bit dark. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels wrong to be laughing about it, but
Well, yeah, but okay, but it's a good word to learn, listeners. A stroke is, I mean, it's obviously a serious thing that affects many people, which we shouldn't really laugh about. But it's okay to laugh about things sometimes, isn't it? Anyway, a stroke is when, I guess it's when a blood vessel in the brain bursts, and that can cause all sorts of problems. Probably best not to dwell on it now.
Let's move on. Well, actually, stroke. So the band are not called the Strokes because of that. It's a homonym where they.
A homonym.
So stroke also means, like, if you have a dog, you can stroke the dog. Stroke a cat. Rub your hands along something.
Yes.
Repetitively, you're stroking it.
Yeah, homonym, same spelling, same pronunciation, but two different meanings. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm up. Let's have the next one.
You're up for another one? Okay.
Yeah, and one more.
The dents.
The what?
Dents. The
dents.
D-E-N-T-S.
Dent. So a dent is like when, let's say, if you have a car accident or you bump your car into something, you'll get a dent in the car. That's really hard.
It is, yeah.
The dents is plural.
Shall I give you a genre? I'll say it's a 60s band. 1960s band.
The dents. I can't think of a synonym of a dent. Damage. Yeah. The damage.
Think if it's a really small dent, you might say this word. The dent isn't very big. If it's a small dent, you might say this.
I don't know. It's not coming to me.
Well, I'm going to give you...
That's not correct.
It's the kinks.
The kinks, of course. A kink, I would say a kink is when you normally have something that is straight and it has like a little bend in it or some part that's not straight. So, for example, a wheel. Normally your wheel on your bicycle will be straight, but if the wheel has a kink in it, then it's going to kind of wobble as it goes round. The Kinks. I love the Kinks so much. One of my favourite bands. Okay, that's cool. That was the Synonyms with band names game.
Uh-huh. Do you want another game, or do you want to go into something else?
Well, I think it's time, Rob, for us to play each other our jingle bits of music. So
good.
You told me before that yours was 20 seconds long, but then this afternoon when you learned that mine was 2 minutes long, that you did an extended version. So does this mean that you've got two, or you've just got one that's now longer? I'm talking about bits of music here, nothing else.
Okay, yeah. I didn't make an extended version. I cut it early to make it 20 seconds. Basically, when I record jingles, this is a bit more of my process. I don't just do one take. For example, I start with the drums, record the drums, and I will record like 3 or 4, maybe 5 different takes with the drums. And if it's with my Kaossilator with the drums, they'll all be pretty much the same. And it gives me a chance to, when I'm doing the guitar or the piano, to practice a few times instead of having to hit back to the beginning every time. With this one that I did for your jingle, it's real drums. And when I'm doing real drums, almost every take is different. So instead of just playing the 20 seconds, I left it longer. So it's playing the same jingle twice, but different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So make up for your 2-minute wonder, which I'm excited about. You made up maybe a whole song.
It's a rock opera.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to go first?
Sure.
So do you need to tell us anything about this before you play it, or is it self-explanatory?
I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory because it's so short. It's just a jingle for Luke's English podcast to say how good it is. Okay, I'll just hit play, shall I?
Let's go. Okay, we're ready.
Okay. I hope you like it. Luke's English podcast. Fun chats and big laughs. We're all learning English with our man Luke T on the LEP. Okay, wait for it. Luke's English podcast. Fun chats, big laughs. We're all learning English with our man Luke T on the LEP. Oh, starting again. Don't want that. Okay, yeah, there you go.
That is fantastic. That is lovely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Could you make out all the lyrics?
Yeah, so it's Luke's English podcast, fun chats and big laughs.
Uh-huh.
We're learning English with our, what is it?
With our man Luke T.
Yeah.
On the LEP. That's the bit I thought you might not get. We're all learning English with our man Luke T. And what I did, especially for you, Luke, I didn't say podcast because I'm from the middle, or you might say the north of England. So I don't say bath or grass or castle. I say bath, grass and castle. But for you, I said Luke's English podcast and laughs instead of laughs. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that, for adapting your English accent for the song. That's great. It's sort of it's got kind of a Britpop vibe to it. Some of your stuff does. It's got this kind of like a sort of early 90s pre-Britpop sort of Lightning Seeds kind of vibe to it.
That's interesting because that is Lightning Seeds. Okay. That's my main influence. I think for this one, I've been listening to a lot of Ben Folds 5 again recently. Do you know Ben Folds 5?
I do.
That's piano and fuzz bass, which is like bass but distorted. So I put some fuzz bass on it to thicken it out. And I always try to do harmonies. I really like doing harmonies, but I'm not very good at it. So some of my harmony outtakes are just so embarrassing. And what I think normally happens is I end up doing an octave, which is just the same note but higher. But I'm trying to get better at harmonies.
But that can work. It's certainly double tracking the vocals can really help because it gives it a bit more, I don't know, like width.
Yeah, that's something I should have said earlier when I was talking about my process. I always double track the vocals, sing it twice. It just makes it thicker. And if you've dropped a note somewhere slightly, because I'm not a pop star, I don't use auto tune like everybody on the radio.
Yeah.
If you've dropped a note a little bit, if you've got another voice of you singing the same thing, then it will hide it a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, like famously, John Lennon loved double tracking his vocals.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was automatic, like ADT automatic double tracking was actually a device that they had that did it automatically. But in the early days, I think like George Martin was like, okay, boys, we're going to double track the vocals. And they did it. And John was like, that's amazing. I want that every time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it definitely works.
Yeah. I remember hearing an interview with George Martin saying how he wished that he'd put his foot down and not let John have the tape echo. What do you call it? ADT?
ADT, automatic double tracking. Yeah.
And not have that on Strawberry Fields because John played him Strawberry Fields in the room and he said his voice was so perfect. It didn't need anything. But
yeah, John was weird about his voice. he didn't like his own voice, and he was always looking for ways to put effects on it and stuff. Okay, right. Do you want to hear my jingle for English with Rob then?
I wanted to hear it since you told me that you'd made it. Yes, definitely want to hear it. I'm excited.
Okay, I can't wait to play it to you. Right, so this, yes.
You made this when did you make this? Today?
Today.
Right,
so
okay.
I couldn't come up with anything. I had an idea in my head, but I just couldn't work out how to do it. But then today I was like, right, okay, I've got like an hour and a half. So it's time to actually get this done.
Wow,
and
that's impressive.
Like I wanted to use drums from the Kaossilator, and then I realized the batteries were flat and I couldn't go out and get new batteries because I didn't have time. And so I was like, oh, Jesus, what am I going to do? And these were like the obstacles that were stopping me. It took me ages to do this, to kind of finally be able to do it. But once I got certain things in place, then it was like, right, I'll do the rest of it right now.
That's flow. You got in the flow.
I did. I got in the zone, but it took me ages to get into the zone. I just like every other time I tried to do it, it just like wasn't working, and I abandoned it. What
That's
I
often
ended
the
up
way.
doing.
You sit down and try and do something before the deadline, and it's like, I can't get into this. But then when the deadline is fast approaching, that's when suddenly the creativity comes out of you flowing.
When your back's against the wall. Exactly. So I actually downloaded the Kaossilator app on my phone.
I've got that too. I got that. It's €17. It's worth it though.
Yeah.
I recommend that to anyone listening. If you don't want to buy a Kaossilator, there is an app you can use, and it's really good. Can you do looping on it though?
I don't know. I haven't worked out how to do it. All I've done is I just got one beat that sounded great, and I just played that single beat, and that's the thing I needed to, and then I could just build everything else on the top. Okay, so I'm going to play it to you. It's me playing everything. So I'm playing the bass, I'm playing the guitar, and there are some vocals. And I also enlisted the help of one of my English robots. I don't know if you've ever heard the English robots I have. And this is something I did years and years and years.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, have you heard that then? You've heard me talk about them?
A while ago. I to be honest, Luke, I've not listened to every single one of your podcasts, but I have listened to one with a robot on. I think when I first met you and you mentioned the podcast, I dug in and found it, and along with the Pink Gorilla story, things like that.
Yeah, so I've got English Robot 3000, English Robot 4000, and English Robot 5000. So this one's got English Robot 4000 on it. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to play it to you now. Let's hope this is not too loud. Here we go. English with Rob. He's got his own pod. He does a good job, 'cause he ain't no slob.
English with Rob is a podcast for learners of English, produced by Robert Dylan Walker, an Englishman, currently living in Germany. In his episodes, Rob teaches idioms, useful expressions and grammar, as well as topics such as shopping, hotels and Britishness. He is usually joined by a co-host from another podcast, such as Martin from Rock and Roll English or Stunek from a Linux English podcast. Rob is very inventive. He often makes his own jingles, which make his podcast enjoyable to listen to.
English with Rob. He's got his own podcast. He does a good job, 'cause he ain't no slob.
Rob also has a YouTube channel where he uploads amusing videos on a variety of themes and topics. In his videos, Rob demonstrates his technical abilities with video editing software. The videos contain an impressive variety of special visual effects, which captivate viewers and show the world his original sensibilities and humor. But for unknown reasons, Rob's videos on YouTube do not attract the number of views that they deserve. Now is the time for Rob to finally get the recognition he deserves.
English with Rob. He's got his own pod, and he does a good job. slob.
Wow. Someone just got a new theme tune. Wow, that's amazing, Luke. It's funky, very well layered, all true. Even the bit, no, apart from the bit about not being a slob.
A slob, by the way,
a
listeners.
slob, yeah, we should explain that.
So a slob would be someone, it's not just someone who's lazy, but someone who's kind of not very hygienic. So you can imagine a slob would just spend their day sitting on the sofa, eating crisps, and just like leaving the crisp packets, dropping the crisp packet on the floor, not really having a shower, and just being a couch potato who doesn't look after themselves, a lazy slob. Yeah.
It would be nice. I don't have the time to be a slob though these days.
Yeah.
But
Me
it's
neither.
it's nice to slob out sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes,
out.
like for example, if my daughter's grandparents are looking after her, if she's gone to her grandparents, then my wife and I will invariably just live like a couple of slobs for a few days. It's quite nice to just like sort of lounge around, stay in bed all morning. It's pretty
That does
good.
sound Yeah.
Yeah, so that was actually really good fun to make, and I actually surprised myself
Good.
at the end when I'd done it. I was like, bloody hell, I'm quite pleased with that. That worked out.
Yeah, you should do it more. Not jingles for me, but jingles for your own podcast. Yeah, I'm super impressed. I can't do that. Like the little what do you call them? Like blues licks on the guitar. I'm more like a chord strumming kind of player. But that was really with the funky
Yeah, I'm not
bass.
really much of a lead guitar player, but I can do the rhythm guitar stuff. But just a couple of little guitar lines. But I if I try and start doing a solo, it all goes horribly wrong, and I'll just hit all sorts of wrong notes and stuff. But yeah, that was good. I'm happy with that. So there you go. That was our kind of little kind of jingle wars.
Jingle
thing.
off. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, since we're on the subject of jingles, I would love to play you a couple of other ones that I've done, and I'm curious to know if you can identify where some of the bits come from, because I've got some jingles in my collection that I made using little samples.
Yeah, that one. It's we're going to talk about English. We're going to have a conversation, and it's got bits from Spaced and some other things I recognize, but I can't think of right now.
There's two of those really. There's one that is a podcast jingle. It's like, this is Luke's English podcast. There's that one. And then there's one which is like, we're going to have a conversation. So let me play the one about the conversation, because let's see if you can identify any of these things. I'm going to just try and find it.
Oh, wait, okay. Yeah. Let's see if I can. Maybe I'll...
Right, here we go. As I look inside the depths of my computer. Okay, a conversation about language. That's it. I'm really happy with this one. I'd never get to play it enough on this podcast, because I don't have enough conversations about language. But whenever I do have a language-based conversation, then I can sort of bring this jingle out. But anyway, here we go. This is my conversation about language jingle. It's not. Don't worry, everyone. It's not as long as the last one you just heard. But can you identify any of the speech samples in this? Here we go.
Hello, we're talking about language.
Sit down, let's have a chat.
A bit of a chat, sir.
A bit of a chat, yes, Doctor, just a bit of a chat.
What about, sir?
About
English is a global language.
this is a conversation.
Yes.
I would like to talk to you. Okay, let's talk. Let's have a quick conversation, huh? What do you think?
That's what we're gonna do.
Away, baby, let's go.
We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a
Conversation.
About language.
All right.
Have you got a longer version of that? I think I've heard a longer one that's got something from Space.
There's the longer version is just the Luke's English podcast jingle megamix, which is a different jingle.
Okay. Okay, so I'll tell you the things that I recognize. It's not many, and I can't remember the name of the main guy who Dudley Moore worked with.
Peter Cook.
Peter Cook, yeah. Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. There was a bit of Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's
Yeah?
the
Okay.
classic sketch, a bit of a chat. What's it called? The Facts of Life, where it's a sort of a teenager comes home, and it's set in the 50s or early 60s, and his very upper class dad needs to talk to him about reproduction and where babies come from. And he's like, "Oh, Roger, can I just have a bit of a chat with you? A bit of a chat, sir." And it's all very awkward because like father-son relationships in those days were so uncomfortable. A bit of a chat. There's nothing to worry about, Roger. Just I was having a bit of a chat with your mother the other day, and she thought it might be a good idea if I was to have a bit of a chat with you. A bit of a chat, sir. And it's very awkward.
There we are, sir. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Roger,
Yes, sir?
um,
Oh, sir.
sit down. Roger, your mother and I were having a bit of a chat the other day, and she thought it might be a good idea if I was to have a bit of a chat with you.
A bit of a chat, sir.
A bit of a chat, yes, Roger, just a bit of a chat.
What about, sir?
Well, there's nothing to be worried about, Roger. It's just that, well, to be perfectly frank, how old are you?
That's from that sketch.
I think there's a mini joke in there in that the lad's name is Roger, because that's sort of a old posh word for sex, to have sex to
to Roger someone. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's just an absolutely wonderful sketch. I did a whole episode about it actually years ago on the podcast, 170 something. So yes, 1 point. You got Roger Moore and Peter Cook, a bit of a chat. Mm-hmm.
Not Roger Moore.
Roger
Is
Moore.
Roger Moore in there as well?
Roger Moore. No,
Roger Moore,
Peter
the
Cook and Dudley
80s
Moore.
James Bond. Okay.
Yeah.
I heard Richard Herring, I think.
No, there's no Richard
No?
Herring. What did you think was
The bit someone's going, "I want to talk to you."
I want to talk
that?
to you. No, that's Eddie Murphy.
Oh, crikey. I thought it was... that's completely the opposite end. I thought it was Richard Herring doing his like Scottish voice.
I would like
But
to talk
it's
to
American.
you. No, it's Eddie Murphy doing an impression of Bill Cosby.
Oh, okay.
And
Well-
it's from one of his from one of his stand-up things where Bill Cosby apparently called him once and sort of said, "I would like to talk to you about some of the things that you say in your show." And then Bill Cosby has he lectures Eddie Murphy about his stand-up.
I ran in the house all excited to talk to Bill and picked up the telephone, and Bill got raw on me. I was like, "Hello, Mr. Cosby?" And you hear, "I would like to talk to you about some of the things that you do in your show." Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that.
And the only other one I got was, which I think, okay, I know it from something which it's sampled from, the bit where it's "we're gonna have a good time," and I think in the original one it's like "we're gonna get loaded, we're gonna have a good time."
Wait,
And isn't it
yeah.
from a song like Bentley Rhythm Ace or someone like that?
It's Primal Scream, Loaded.
Primal Scream.
We're gonna have a
But
good
it's not-
time.
but-
We're gonna get loaded. Yeah,
Isn't it from a movie though? Isn't it from Born to, what's that song? Stephen Wolf's song is from a motorcycle movie.
From Easy Rider.
Easy Rider.
It's not actually from Easy Rider. It's from another Peter Fonda film, which is very similar kind of film. It's like an American film from the 60s about young people trying to do what they want, man. We just want to have a good time, man. And I think it's in a courtroom situation, but we all know it. You and I know it from the Primal Scream song Loaded. I'm going to play the first little bit of that now.
Just what is it that you want to do?
Well, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. And we want to get loaded. And we want to have a good time. And that's what we're going to do.
Well, when, baby? Let's go.
We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a party.
Right.
Yeah. To get loaded, should we explain that?
Yeah.
It's drugs, isn't it, basically? Or is it drugs and alcohol to...
It's either or, both.
Intoxicated, yeah. To be intoxicated, to get loaded.
To get high, to get drunk, we just want to get loaded, man.
Yeah, we don't want nobody telling us what to do. We don't want nobody pushing us around.
I apologize. But tell me, just what is it that you want to do?
Well, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. We want to be free to ride. And we want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded. And we want to have a good time. And that's what we're going to do.
Well, when, baby? Let's go.
We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a party.
Okay, but I kind of cut it out. So the other bits in there are, there's Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie. It's mainly just Hugh Laurie, but a sketch from Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry. And it's where Stephen Fry is playing this very, very pretentious professor. And he's talking about language. And then every now and then, Hugh Laurie turns to the camera and he goes, "Hello, we're talking about language." Okay. And I just took that little bit.
So let's talk instead about flexibility of language, linguistic elasticity, if you like.
Yes, I think I said earlier that our language, English...
As spoken by us.
As we speak it, yes, certainly, defines it. We are defined by our language, if you will.
Hello, we're talking about language.
Now, I don't quite know why I enjoy that, why I find that so funny, where he just turns and goes, "Hello, we're talking about language." I don't know why, but it's perfect for the jingle. And so I managed to cut that up where it's like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation about language. The other one is from Chris Morris, Brass Eye.
Okay.
Where he is, so listeners, Brass Eye was a sort of satirical, surreal news parody show, like the Day to Day. And one of the things that was done in there, it was a bit like Ali G in the sense that people would be interviewed on the show, but they didn't realize that it was a comedy show. They thought it was a serious interview show. And the interviewer would be so ridiculous that he would push the limits of the other person's, I guess, personality or patience or something. And Chris Morris is interviewing this guy who, I don't even know who he is, some very old conservative sort of public school kind of person. And Chris Morris is talking to him about getting stung by a wasp. And he's pushing it to a more surreal level. And the man goes, "This is a conversation." And he's going to say, this is a conversation which is ridiculous or something. But Chris Morris is so fast that he just jumps in before he finishes the sentence. And he goes, "This is a conversation." And Chris Morris goes, "Yes." I don't know. I just find that so. This is a conversation. Yes.
Thanks. Found out exactly what to think next.
Still to come up, David Jatt meets Peregrine Worsthorne.
Here's a point. We execute wasps, but we don't execute dogs.
We execute wasps because they sting us, and dogs give us pleasure.
Do wasps really sting us?
Well, they do. They have stung me, and it seemed like a sting.
Was it actually a sting?
I call it a sting. I mean, I'm a
You see, I've
creature of
never
habit.
been stung by a wasp. I don't necessarily believe we're told they sting.
Well, I have been stung by a wasp, and they do sting.
People say that snakes sting and snakes bite.
I haven't been stung by a snake, I'm glad to say.
Well, that's because they bite.
If I had, I would, or bite.
Now that, weirdly, I believe, and yet I've never been bitten by a snake. Why do a lot of people not believe that wasps sting?
Well, come out into our garden in South Bucks on a summer's day. I'll find you a wasp, and I think...
Sting me with it.
What?
You'd sting me with a wasp.
This is a conversation...
Yes.
When you put this together, did you think, oh, I can have this and I can have that? Did you have them all in your head at one time, or did you sort of do a bit of research to see if you could find anything else where people were talking about chatting, conversation?
No, I pretty much had most of them in my head already.
Mm.
So that's basically it. So it's basically, hello, we're having a conversation about language. And then it's like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation about language. No, it's hello, we're talking about language. And yeah, baby, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation about language. I enjoyed it.
It works. It really works. It's good. Yeah.
I mean, I could do the longer mega mix, but we'd be here all day. I'm tempted though.
I'm happy to listen to it. I'm sure your listeners are too.
Okay, come on, let's do the jingle multi-mix. Now, I did do a full episode of the podcast about this, but it's an app-only episode. It's only in the app.
Oh, I was going to say I haven't seen that one. Okay.
It's a 1 hour episode where I break down every single vocal sample from this, but you might be able to identify some specifics from this as well. So this is the Luke's English Podcast jingle multi-mix. It's about 30.
I'm going to see if I can. You're going to test me on who I recognize from this one too?
I'm going to test you on this as well. Okay, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is a journey into the English language. A journey into the DNA of the English language.
Really?
The DNA of the English language. Now that's really quite a strong claim.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Who are you?
You talking to me? You talking to me?
You know who I'm talking to. I'm a school teacher. I teach English composition.
Oh, really?
Yes! Oh, really?
Yes! That's an idiot.
You don't know what that is?
And I don't know what this is.
This is Luke's English Podcast.
Can't touch this.
This is a masterpiece of the English language.
Alrighty then.
Just think of the accolades it's received over the years.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
And I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Ooh, this is going to be good.
Really?
Yes!
I want to get into it, man.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Luke's English Podcast.
And this is Britain at its best.
Oh, you lucky people!
Okay. So
okay, that wasn't so long. That was enjoyable anyway. Okay, here's what my ears picked up.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the first one I recognize, but I do not know where from, and I need to know the person who's talking about the DNA of the English language.
Yes. So that is David Crystal, Professor David Crystal, the famous linguist.
Because I've heard him on your podcast. That's why I know about it.
Yeah. So that was from
sounds familiar.
That's from a talk he did about the King James Bible. Right. So he's talking about, the King James Bible. People talk about it as if it contains the DNA of the English language, because people say it was the first, really first example of written English ever that we got. And people say it contained the DNA of the English language, and people make these outrageous claims about the significance of the King James Bible in the history of English. And then in his talk, he goes on to explain how that's not entirely true. So yes, the DNA of the English language, and also the bit where it goes, just think of the accolades it's received over the years. So accolades means like praise, like the opposite of criticism, like great praise, great reviews. So basically he's saying, think
like
of
when you won all those awards.
Like when I won all of those awards, all those accolades. Exactly. So, that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to that.
So this year has been quite remarkable for bringing the King James Version into the public eye. A version that has attracted an extraordinary campaign of public relations, really, apart from anything else. Just think of the accolades it's received over the years. Just take in the last 50 years. Churchill, for example, referring to it as a masterpiece of the English language. But go back a century. Coleridge, claiming that the King James Bible would keep anyone from being vulgar in point of style. If you follow the King James style, you will avoid vulgarity, by which he meant, of course, using a style that was unelegant in some way. Oh, all the famous people have commented in this way. Charlton Heston. I mean, you know, let's go up a notch to Charlton Heston. He said at one point, the King James Bible has been an enormous force in shaping the development of the English language. Charlton Heston, that well-known expert on English language studies. And then we have people who have pointed to the relationship of the King James Bible to the English language as we know it today. And here, things tend to go a little out of control, it seems to me. Because people say here that the modern English language has been shaped by the King James Bible. Without the King James Bible, there would be no modern English. People say things like this. Melvyn Bragg, for example, whose splendid book of books, by the way, came out a little while ago. A year ago, he was saying things like this, that the King James Bible was the DNA of the English language. A theme that Frank Field picked up, and it got a little bit of publicity, this. The DNA of the English language. Now, that's really quite a strong claim. I mean, DNA, I don't know very much about genetics, but one thing I do know is that DNA is everywhere. So what we're saying, if we're saying that the King James is the DNA of the English language, is that there isn't a word that you can say that doesn't show the influence of the King James Bible in some way. And that, to me, is going well over the top. That is exaggeration.
But there's also this.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You don't recognize that?
Sure, I know it. I mean, it sounds very old. It sounds like something from the 50s or 60s.
It's what's his name? So it's the guy presenting the Beatles on TV in America.
Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan. It's Ed Sullivan presenting the Beatles. But the thing is,
I never would have got that. Okay.
I couldn't find. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles. It's that. But I couldn't find the video of Ed Sullivan presenting the Beatles. And so I had to find a video of the Ruttles. And because what?
Wait, so there's a video version of this jingle?
No.
Oh.
But I took all of the audio samples from YouTube videos and stuff. And so I found the Ruttles version of that, which is basically they took the footage of the Beatles at the Ed Sullivan show and just replaced, every time he says the Beatles, he goes the Ruttles instead. And so I just cut out the ladies and gentlemen from that.
Now, yesterday and today, our theater's been jammed with newspapermen and hundreds of photographers from all over the nation, and these veterans agree with me that the city never has witnessed the excitement stirred by these youngsters from Liverpool who call themselves the Ruttles. Now, tonight, you're going to twice be entertained by them. Right now, and again in the second half of our show. Ladies and gentlemen,
the Ruttles. Let's hear it from.
I'm not the kind of guy who likes to play Big Brother.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Ruttles. Let's hear it from.
So normally it would be ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles, but he goes, I love the way his voice changes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ruttles.
Yeah.
So that's that. Okay.
I also heard Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker.
Yes, they are in there.
MC Hammer.
Can't touch this.
And I wrote down, alrighty then. And I was like, I know who that is, but I can't think. Oh, it's Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Jim Carrey playing Ace Ventura.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
What do you want?
HDS, sir. And how are you this afternoon? Alrighty then. I have a package for you.
And I heard James Brown.
I want to get into it, man. It's James Brown from Sex Machine.
And then the last one, which I don't think many people would get, but you lucky people, is Tires from Spaced.
Spaced, that great comedy show. Simon Pegg.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. And
it's a journey into the English language.
There's David Crystal.
Into the DNA of the English language.
Really?
The DNA.
You don't recognize that? Really? It's Seinfeld. It's Seinfeld.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
No,
okay.
I didn't recognize it, but now you say it, obviously I'm like, of course it's Seinfeld.
Really?
Really?
The DNA of the English language. Now, that's really quite a strong claim.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Obviously, Darth Vader.
Who are you?
I don't know where I got that. It's just some viral video that went on, that was online.
You talking to me?
You talking to me?
Oh, that's not Clint Eastwood though, is it?
You talking to me? You
Oh,
talking
it's
to
no,
me?
that's I've got the wrong quote. It's De Niro.
It's Robert De Niro, Taxi Driver. Yeah.
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Oh, yeah? Huh? Okay. Huh? You talking to me?
You know who I'm talking to.
You know who I'm talking to. That is a guy called Steve Harley, who is a sort of American talk show host.
I'm a school teacher. I teach English composition.
You don't recognize that voice? That
I was thinking of movies with school teachers. I'm like, it's not Robin Williams. I don't know, because he's a no.
that is Tom Hanks in the film Saving Private Ryan.
I've not seen it.
Because there's in the film, obviously they're all soldiers, and he's the officer in charge of that group of soldiers, and they've got this bet going where they're betting on what job they think he does in normal life.
Okay.
You know, and they're all like, what are the odds on, you know, blah, 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 blah. And there's one key moment in the film where they're all fighting with each other. They've all started turning on each other. And, you know, he's like, what are the odds on my job? And they all stop fighting and they're like, huh? And he tells them, I'm a school teacher. I teach English composition.
Teach English composition.
And then they all stop, and you know, it's one of those. It's like a leadership moment.
Sir, listen. So if he wants to go, just let him go. You're gonna shoot me? Are you letting this happen? Captain, you see this? Captain. Sir, Ryan's dead. Bullshit. So we have a situation here. Bullshit. Get in on. Captain, I have a sixth sense about these things. I know it in my bones. We don't kill that son of a bitch crap. Now you're gonna shoot me, huh? He's better than you. Then why don't you just do it, Sarge? Do it, man. Put one in my leg and give me that $1 million. I'm gonna shoot you in your big goddamn mouth. Well, put your money where your mouth is and do it then.
Shut
Do
up.
it.
You don't know
Pull
how
the
to
trigger
shut up.
already. Captain, please. Give me
What's the pool on me up to?
You are a coward, son of a bitch!
I'm waiting, Sarge.
Sarge!
I'm
What's
waiting.
the pool on me up to right now? What's it up to? What is it, $300? Is that it? 300? I'm a school teacher. I teach English composition. This little town called Abley, Pennsylvania. In the last 11 years, I've been at Thomas Alva Edison High School. I was a coach of the baseball team in the springtime. Back home, and I tell people what I do for a living. They think, well, nah, that figures. But over here, it's a big mystery.
Like, huh? And he tells them, I'm a school teacher. I teach English composition.
Teach English composition.
And then they all stop, and you know, it's one of those. It's like a leadership moment.
Oh, really?
Yes. That was just some stupid WWF or WWE WrestleMania fighter who just kept doing this thing where he just went, yes, 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 yes. And he just shouted yes louder and louder and louder. And I just took one of the yeses from
My
that.
wife does that sometimes.
Once a year on your birthday.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, really? That is, what's his name from The Big Bang Theory? You know, the kind of geeky, the super geeky one?
Sheldon.
Sheldon, that's him, yeah.
That's an idiot.
You don't know what that is? And I don't know what this is.
So that is from a viral video of a girl in a supermarket, and she's got a VHS cassette, She's a little girl. She's holding a VHS cassette, and she's gone up to her mum and says, "What is this?" And she's like, "You don't know what that is?" And she's, "No, I don't know what this is." And it's in some southern town in America. All right.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
And I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is going good.
Sorry?
Was that, like my father before me, was that a shout out to Rick?
Yes. And, ooh, this is going to be good. I think that's from like SpongeBob or something like that.
Really?
And there's Jerry Seinfeld again, like, really? Is it really going to be good?
I want to get into it, man.
That's James Brown, of course. We've got to play that. James Brown's Sex Machine. That's also a very commonly sampled bit in hip hop.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
and his voice is just instantly recognizable as well.
Yeah. I want to get into it, man. Yeah.
Fellas, I'm ready to get up and do my thing. I want to get into it, man, you know. Like a sex machine, man. Moving, doing it, you know. Can I count it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Get up, get on up. Get up, get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a sex machine. Get on up. Get up. I want to get into it, man, you know.
You know, in Japan, like I lived in Japan, and like one of my friends told me that in Japan they think that he's going, "Get on pa," right? Get on pa,
Okay,
get
what
on
does that
pa,
mean?
gero. Right? Get on pa means nothing, but gero is the noise that a frog makes. It's like going ribbit, ribbit.
Okay.
So for them, like, it's like the frog song, because it's some guy going, "Get on pa," and then in the background, gero. Get on pa, gero. Get on pa, gero. God knows what they think that is, that it's something about frogs.
Well, whatever they're thinking, they just know that it's funky and pure.
Yeah, definitely.
Classic song.
All right, let's finish this jingle off. This is going on far too long. I'm sorry, everybody.
Gentlemen,
This is Luke. There's Ed Sullivan again at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Luke's English Podcast.
English Podcast.
And this is Britain at its best.
Yeah, I recognize that. Is it from a TV advert for something?
That is from the Day to Day, another Chris Morris thing.
Oh, okay.
And it's from the episode of the Day to Day, which is again a parody news show, where the Prime Minister and the Queen have a fight. That during the Prime Minister's weekly meeting with the Queen, they get involved in a physical fight.
And
the
who was it?
headline,
Would it have been Blair at that time?
it was John Major, actually.
Okay, pretty old then. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know the report, the situation escalates and escalates until it becomes a national crisis, and then on the news they say, because the crisis has worsened dramatically, we're going to play a video which is held at the BBC here to be played in times of crisis, and then they play this little montage which is supposed to restore everybody's faith in the country and how everything is all right. This is Britain and everything's all right. Everything.
It's like, keep calm and carry on, isn't it?
Yeah. Everything's all right. It's okay. It's fine.
All programmes have now been suspended on all channels to allow the broadcast of this film held in reserve for times of crisis.
Britain is a nation built on the very scowling face of adversity. Its dauntless spirit unbowed by any crisis. This is Britain at its best. This is Britain, and in this glittering sea, this perfect fusion of man and mineral, we know that conflict will always perish in the brotherhood of flags. This is Britain, and everything's all right. Everything's all right. It's okay. It's fine.
And then, the last bit is Tyres from space going, haha, you lucky people. Way. So there you go.
Why is he saying that? Because he's going to take them to a club or something?
Yeah, because wherever Tyres goes, this character, wherever he goes, he brings the party with him.
Uh-huh.
And so they're all lucky because they're all going to have a really fantastic time, thanks to him. You lucky people.
Hey, you lucky people.
Yeah, all right. Where do we go from here, Rob? Do you have one or two other jingles to play to us before we finish? Have you got another couple of games for us to do before we finish?
Since we're all your jingles about conversations, I could play my conversation jingle.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's my computer coming back to life. Ooh, okay. Conversation. So this is in most of my podcasts, I go through some useful vocabulary about whatever subject I'm talking about. And then the idea is that with my co-host, I will then have a conversation and we'll try and use some of that. Well, naturally, some of that useful vocabulary will come up. You know what? Why don't I play you the useful vocabulary and then the conversation?
Okay.
Here's the useful vocabulary. Okay, I realized that that one is something I've not talked about before. Similar to the Kaossilator, I've got this. It's called a pocket operator.
Yeah, my brother's got one of those.
Yeah, it's this really cool like sampling machine, and it's another one where you can just be really quick and make a quick jingle. And then here's my conversation jingle, which is drums from the Kaossilator and then electric guitar. Here we go. Let's have the conversation, let's talk, let's chat. Let's have the conversation about this and that. Let's have the conversation, just me and you. Yeah, have the conversation, that's what we're gonna do. And I like to let the end just, fade out naturally, especially if it's guitar, because then I can come in talking over it and it can just, instead of just stop talk.
Jingles have to have a tail.
Blending.
Have to have a long tail at the end.
Luke's got the lingo, yeah.
My jingles have got a long tail at the end. I'll give you a little sample.
Oh yeah, it's very recognizable.
It's pretty long, isn't it?
I feel like I should be saying bye.
Okay. And have you got any more games, or are we? Have we used? I bet you do. Let's do one more before we
can do,
finish.
So I've got some things prepared on my paper here. What else is there? Okay, this is called. Which is the most expensive thing? And I'm just going to give you three things. So the idea is to use, comparatives language, more than, less than, as much as.
Which is the most expensive thing?
Which is the most expensive thing? Find the most expensive thing, that's how you win. If it's the cheapest thing you choose, this is how you lose. So which is the most expensive thing? Which is the most expensive thing, Luke? I've got three things which I went on a popular website and took some things in their special offers. So I'm going to say three things.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to put them in order, the most expensive to the least expensive.
Okay.
So the first thing I'll give you is a front and rear dash cam for your car.
front and rear dash cam for my car so I can take videos of people crashing and doing stupid things.
Yep. There's no, I didn't see a brand name, anything recognizable, but there you go. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
All electronics. So the next thing is something I'd never heard of, a UV LED nail lamp. And you put your fingernails in it, and I think the UV makes them sort of stronger, strengthens your fingernails.
Oh, yeah?
Could be completely wrong about that.
Or does it dry out the varnish that you've put on it more quickly? Something like that?
Could be. But why would they need UV for that?
I don't know. Maybe the UV helps to dry out the varnish. You just put your hands under, or maybe somehow you can see things more easily under the UV. Anyway, people who have manicures will know. But anyway, a UV nail lamp.
Uh-huh.
All right.
See, I wanted to find something you weren't that familiar with. I mean, I'm guessing you don't use a nail lamp.
I don't.
Because of the shocking state of your nails.
Yeah, they are absolutely appalling.
Okay, so that's the second, and the last thing is I'm never sure. I shouldn't have put this. Oh, there's his nails. Okay, I'm never sure how to say this brand name. Bose, is it, or Boza?
Bose. I would say Bose, the brand that makes speakers. I've got one here.
Okay, yeah, BOSE, Bose.
BOSE, Bose. They make speakers. All right.
So Bose or Bose, they're called Quiet Comfort 35 wireless Bluetooth headphones with noise cancelling and Alexa voice control. So there you go, three things. Which is the most, which is the least expensive?
Okay, I think that the Bose headphones are the most expensive, and the reason for that is that my reason for saying that is because I have I've looked into buying some and checked them out, and then been shocked, like fallen off the back of my chair.
Yeah.
When looking at the price, like they're like 250 quid or something like that. The dash cams could be expensive. I would say they're probably a bit more expensive than the UV lamp, but maybe UV is like a precious material that costs like $1 million a litre or something, like saffron. Like saffron is the most expensive stuff in the world, pound for pound. Maybe UV is somehow, okay, it's not, is it? Let's be honest, it's not.
Yeah.
Because every crappy disco's got a UV light.
To go up to the sun to get some of it, right? To mine it. It must be...
You've got to go into space to get it. It's like unobtainium from Avatar or something. There's like people fighting wars in space. The UV wars of like 2023. When
all those spaceships melting.
I reckon that the Bose headphones are the most expensive, and the UV lamp is the least expensive, and then the dash cams are probably somewhere in the middle. Okay, there you go.
That's correct!
Yay, I'm right.
Bang on, exactly right. The Bose headphones are €299. The dash cams, the set of 2 dash cams are €42, and the UV LED nail lamp is $24.99.
Only $24.99. A small price to pay for glowing nails. All right, that was fun. Well, listeners, viewers, if you would like to hear more fun games that can help you learn English through headphones. Maybe you've got a pair of those Bluetooth Bose headphones and you're thinking, well, I've got the headphones, now I just need something to listen to. You could listen to English with Rob, the podcast. You could also visit English with Rob on YouTube in order to see some of Rob's incredible video editing and special effects skills. Rob, what do people do? Where do people find your stuff?
Wow, you just said it. Basically, the podcast, the YouTube channel. If you just put in English with Rob podcast, you'll find it. It's on. In fact, if anybody finds a player that it's not on, please let me know. But I think it's on most of them now. Don't have a website, but I am on Instagram and TikTok. I've dipped my toes into the TikTok arena. But I find it's a massive to use it as not a contributor, but just someone watching it. It's a huge. It puts me down a huge hole. So I've deleted it off my phone a few times. because I find myself just sitting on the toilet long after I'm finished looking at TikToks.
It's a dangerous wormhole. You'll get sucked in and you'll never come out again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't ventured into TikTok myself. Yeah.
I do plan to, basically, although don't bother. If you're on Instagram, all the Instagram stuff and the TikTok stuff is the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're my social medias.
All right. Great. Well, it's nice to talk to you on my podcast finally. And it was really fun to kind of get into the music and all that sort of thing. And to catch up with you as well, because I didn't realize that you've been in Germany for like nearly 6 years.
Nearly 6 years. Yeah. It's just flown by. And yeah.
You know what I was going to say? Sorry, I was going to say this, that you have been on this podcast before.
It's true. Yeah, we went to watch The Force Awakens together, and then straight afterwards we recorded a podcast. But my memory of that is that I was so flustered because I'd just come out of like a pretty big event in my life, watching a new Star Wars film after so long. And you said, okay, we can't do any spoilers. I was like, what am I going to say if they can't do any spoilers? But not only that, but I was with 3 professional stand-up comedians. So I felt completely out of my depth.
Yeah, I basically shoved the microphone in your face. I was like, right, what did you think of that? And you were like,
yeah, I was the first as well.
What did you think of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens?
What? You've never been on the podcast before, and then you come straight to me. So I'm like,
bang, straight in with a Star Wars question.
Well, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I'm sitting here, and I'm very, very happy. Lots of things that I expected happened. Some things I didn't expect happened. I don't know. I laughed. I cried. Didn't change my life, but it's.
But you're basically happy with it.
Yeah. It's a new world, new hope. Actually, the main thing I was worried about is not liking the new characters, but I do. So that's the most important thing, I think.
That's positive. We've got just a bunch of French people who've just sat right next to us.
Darth Vader, 2 dudes dressed as Darth Vader.
So, yeah, listeners, you may have heard Rob on the podcast before kind of going,
If you remember that, then obviously it was pretty bad.
No, I don't remember you going, I do remember me basically shoving a microphone into your face and not giving you any time to prepare yourself.
Yeah, I said something like, oh, you're coming straight to me? I thought it was good. But I often start like that, like at the beginning of this podcast. You're like, how are you? I'm like, yeah, I'm right. I don't know what to say. I've got to supposed to be a podcaster and be able to speak very, well.
For me, my technique is pretty much to open my mouth and then let my brain try to catch up. That's pretty much what I do.
Oh, well, you've had 12 years of practice. You've perfected it.
Start talking and sort of work out what I'm actually going to say somewhere along the line, which does get me into trouble sometimes because I realise I've rambled into some weird place and then I'm like, what am I talking about? But it's all part of the fun. And I'm glad to know that you are enjoying that kind of thing too. It's good fun, isn't it? Podcasting. Long may it continue.
Being creative, just rambling on, but also talking to people, getting their opinion on stuff. Yeah. So each of my podcasts I like to have a theme for each podcast so that it's not just tell us about yourself and then hearing a different teacher's history every time. So I like to have a theme. And then the games is something that I like to do because it's a bit interactive. If it's a quiz, then the listeners can be thinking about the answers to the quiz to the game as well. So there's always a few games in the podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I laugh and joke about rambling and stuff, but also a lot of the joy is in preparing stuff that is going to be useful and thinking, oh, people are going to like this. Like preparing stuff that is going to really help people with their English is great. It's a great feeling. And knowing that there's an audience of people out there who are willing, and to listen to it and who are going to use it. And it's brilliant. It's just great. It's like the thing as a teacher for a while, I've kind of, my feeling about being a teacher has gone up and down over the years. There have been times when I've thought, oh God, I just can't do this anymore. It's so draining, so kind of energy draining. especially when teaching sort of like 30 hours a week or more.
Yeah,
it's
and
so
people
draining.
don't realize that there's a lot of, for every lesson there's a lot of prep as well. So it's not just the time in the classroom, it's the time at home putting the lessons together.
Yeah. And the sense that often we don't get to spend that long with students. So a lot of my teaching with adults has been spending like 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks with a group of people, and then the course is over and I never see them ever again. So I'm now at work with them, trying to improve their English as much as possible in those 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then they're gone, and that's it. Next group. And so, after years and years and years and years of that, you get the sense of like, well, where's the sort of long-term sort of development for me? I get better and better as a teacher, but it's not like one single project which I develop over time. But with a podcast, it's like this thing that you are building, and you build it over time, and it's something that stays with you, and it's not just like this temporary thing or like a kind of a conveyor belt. It's just something you can continue to build. So that's always been a great thing for me.
Yeah, and I'm only on episode 20, but the podcast has sort of shaped itself into a format now. Whereas at the beginning I was sort of learning what's going to work, and now it's still going to change as I have different ideas and find things that work and don't. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we look forward to discovering the new episodes that come out and stuff like that. And we must stop because it's getting far too long.
Yeah.
It's been really good to talk to you, and keep in touch. I'll speak to you again soon. Okay, but all the best. Have a good night and all that stuff. Speak to you
too, Luke.
soon.
Thanks. Such a pleasure.
You too.